Battles rage across Gaza as Israel indicates it's willing to fight for months or more to beat Hamas. Tennessee residents clean up after severe weekend storms killed 6 people and damaged neighborhoods. Trump says he won't testify again at his New York fraud trial. He says he has nothing more to say. Today is Monday, December 11th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. Battles are raging across Gaza as Israel indicates it is prepared to fight for months or longer to defeat the territory's Hamas rulers. A key mediator says willingness to discuss a ceasefire is fading. Israel faces international outrage after its military offensive has killed thousands of Palestinian civilians. Close ally the United States has given Israel important diplomatic support and arms in recent days. About 90% of Gaza's 2.3 million people have been displaced within the besieged territory, where UN agencies say there is no safe place to flee. Some observers, including UN officials, worry that Palestinians will be forced out of Gaza altogether. Central Tennessee residents and emergency workers are digging out from devastating weekend storms that killed 6 people, toppled houses, and cut power to tens of thousands. Government officials confirmed that 3 people died after a tornado struck Montgomery County north of Nashville near the Kentucky state line on Saturday afternoon. The Nashville Emergency Operations Center confirmed that 3 others were killed as a result of tornadoes in a neighborhood near downtown. Dozens more were hospitalized. Communities worked to begin repairing damaged houses with strewn debris. Other harrowing scenes included a tractor trailer flipped on its side and insulation ripped out of building walls. Donald Trump says he's decided against testifying for a second time at his New York civil fraud trial. In a social media post Sunday, the former president said he very successfully and conclusively testified last month and saw no need to appear again. Trump had been expected to return to the witness stand Monday as the last big defense witness in the case, which threatens his real estate empire and cuts to the heart of his image as a successful businessman. In all capital letters, Trump said, "I have already testified to everything and have nothing more to say." He was often defiant and combative when he testified last month. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Buenos Aires to witness the swearing-in of Argentina's new president, Javier Milei. It is the Ukrainian leader's first-ever trip to Latin America, as Kyiv continues to court support among developing nations for its 21-month-old fight against Russia's invading forces. During Zelensky's visit to Buenos Aires, his office and the White House announced he would travel to Washington to meet President Joe Biden on Tuesday. Zelensky used the trip to Argentina to meet leaders of several developing countries. He met the Prime Minister of the West African country of Cape Verde on his way to Buenos Aires. Once in Argentina, Zelensky met separately with the presidents of Paraguay, Ecuador, and Uruguay. Right-wing economist Javier Milei has been sworn in as Argentina's president and has immediately moved to prepare the public for a painful shock adjustment with drastic public spending cuts. In his inaugural address, he presented figures to lay bare the scope of what he called the economic emergency, but he promised the adjustment would almost entirely affect the state rather than the private sector, and that it represented the first step toward prosperity. With his inauguration on Sunday, the nation is wondering which version of him will govern: the chainsaw-wielding, anti-establishment crusader from the campaign trail, or the more moderate president-elect who emerged in recent weeks. The U.S. Border Patrol says it is overwhelmed by a shift in human smuggling routes, with hundreds of migrants from faraway countries like Senegal, Bangladesh, and China being dropped in a remote desert area in Arizona. The area around Lukeville is hours away by car to U.S. hospitals and migrant shelters. The U.S. government responded last week by indefinitely closing the crossing between Lukeville and Sonoita, Mexico, to free officers assigned to the port to instead help agents apprehend migrants. Federal air marshals who provide security on commercial flights, and even Federal Protective Service officers who guard U.S. government buildings, also are being called on. President Joe Biden is taking a more active role in Senate negotiations over changes to the immigration system that Republicans are demanding in exchange for providing money to Ukraine and Israel. Biden has said he's willing to make significant compromises on the border to meet Republican demands that the foreign aid be tied to an overhaul of U.S. border policy. The issues under discussion include asylum standards, humanitarian parole, and fast-track deportation authority. Republicans say the record numbers of migrants crossing the southern border pose a security threat because authorities can't adequately screen all the migrants. Immigration advocates say some proposed changes would gut protections for people who desperately need help. Students, lawmakers, and religious leaders have joined forces at a temple in Philadelphia to strongly denounce anti-Semitism on college campuses and in their communities. The gathering, Sunday at Congregation Rodef Shalom, comes one day after University of Pennsylvania President Liz McGill resigned amid criticism over her testimony at a congressional hearing. McGill was unable to say, under repeated questioning, that calls on campus for the genocide of Jews would violate the school's conduct policy. Harvard President Claudine Gay and Massachusetts Institute of Technology President Sally Kornbluth also took part in the congressional hearing. They have also drawn criticism for their lawyerly answers. Shohei Ohtani's jaw-dropping $700 million 10-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers has some similarities to other contracts for the world's biggest sports stars, including soccer icons Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, along with NFL quarterback Patrick Mahomes. In terms of his marketability, experts point to another name. The real comparison? Try Taylor Swift. The global music sensation's broad appeal, one that bridges the gap between generations and expands to other countries, is an extremely rare phenomenon that Ohtani shares. Japanese anime master Hayao Miyazaki's is number one at the North American box office for the first time in his decade-spanning career. According to studio estimates, Miyazaki's latest enchanting film, The Boy and the Heron, debuted with $12.8 million. The long-awaited animated fantasy from the director of Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and other cherished anime classics, is only the third anime to top the box office in U.S. and Canadian theaters, and the first original anime to do so. Another Japanese film, Godzilla Minus One, also charted high, with 8.3 million. Last week's top film, Renaissance, a film by Beyoncé, dropped steeply in its second weekend with $5 million. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the international news for Monday, December 11th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us here at the Dunkley Report.